Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you part 2 of my conversation with my guest, Hal Williams, who starred for over the course of our seasons in about 7 episodes as Harley Foster. Please welcome back, Hal. I was looking up some information, and I never know if what I read is accurate, but that you have been a series regular on 9 hit primetime series. True. Okay, good. They got one right.
5 of them as a regular and the others as a recurring character.
Wow.
Just luck. I mean, just the way it happened. And
Well,
I didn't realize that the one day they asked me, to start naming stuff, and I said, "Oh well, yeah, I did do that." So I went to an interview one time for a show which we were named Nameless, and the casting director had me in. It was for a thing called First Monday or First Tuesday, starring James Garner. It was about the Supreme Court. They called me in for the audition and the interview, and the producer asked me, he said, "How many television series have you been in? 9 or 10?" I said, 9. He said, "That's right." And I wanted to say, "So why am I sitting here?" I didn't say that, but in my mind I said, "Yeah." And yeah, I still have to come in here and see you and read these lines in this little script.
Yeah.
And you telling me face on that I've been in it.
So have you figured out if I can act yet?
I love this business. It's like, and I hate to say this, it's like I've had 2.5 of them. It's like a bad marriage, and you stay in it. You gotta love the person. You say, "Why are you still there?" "Oh, I love him." "Oh, I love him." It gotta be love. Why are you still doing that if that's the way? Because this is what I came 55 years ago, divorced with 3 kids on my back, and that I had custody of, to pursue a dream I had had since I was 7 years old.
Wow. Well, tell me that story about how you came to acting and that choice and that journey.
I did a little bit of community acting. Well, I did a little bit of acting in high school. I remember I first got started in it for theater by running on the track team, and they had an operetta come up called In Gay Havana, where you got to sing. So all the guys on the track team, I said, "I'm going to try out for that play." "Man, you can't sing. You're going to do what?" I said, I'm going to. So I tried out for In Gay Havana, and I got 3 roles in it. And I sang in all 3 characters in the operetta, and that cured that. But then when I got married the first time, my wife and I, who had grown up together, we all had an interest about going to Saturday afternoon movies and spending a quarter to get popcorn, a dime to get in, and all that stuff every Saturday, and see the cliffhanger and 2 episodes and 2 movies and the cliffhanger. She got into a local theater called Community Players in Columbus, Ohio, and she did Orpheus Descending. And she got hooked, and I got hooked, and I kept trying to find things for me to play in like that, never thinking I would ever, try to make a living. There was no reason in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, you can do these little plays around it, so what? So I got into social work. I got into juvenile corrections. I got into the war on poverty and stuff like that. And I was being, as they said, very successful, very unhappy. Then when my marriage broke up after 10 years, I sat down one day and said, "You know what? What's the one thing I would really like to say I tried once in my life before I died?" And I happened to watch an episode of I Spy with Robert Culp and Bill Cosby. And they just starred Jim Brown one time. They just starred Muhammad Ali one time, and some other. And I said, "You know what? I really think there's an opportunity to open it up in Hollywood, as I used to call it. They're going to let Black people play something beside maids and butlers. I'm going to give it a shot." My parents thought I had lost my mind. "You have custody of 3 children, you got a good job, you dress up every day, you got a briefcase." I said, "I'm unhappy." I said, "I got to try. I got to get this out of my system." I said, "I just want you to watch my kids till I go out there and get set up." I went out the year before and took exams for California Youth Authority, reactivated my name on the post office list, because I knew I had to take care of my family and myself. to whatever happened. I knew two people who were in the business because they had relatives in my hometown I used to work with who told me this is my cousin. Excuse me, my cousin. This is so and so. When you get out there, call them. So I got in my car one night, least top of my house. My parents watched my kids. Got in my car on a Wednesday evening with a bucket of Colonel Sanders chicken and 2 pistols, and got on the highway. Then I crossed the California state line at 9 o'clock on Friday at the Highway Patrol State Border Station. And I called my mom and said, I'm in California, not in LA, but I'm in California. And that's how I came there. I got out here. They put a freeze on with the post office. I went to work for the California Youth Authority for a little while. And then I got into a play. I was doing auditions because these people told me, get the Variety every Friday. They have listings where you can see what's being cast, theater listings and everything. So there was a guy, an actor named Don Murray, another actor named Otis Young. They created a salt and pepper cowboy series called The Outcasts. I think it was on CBS 80. Anyway, first time they had black and white cowboy characters on national television. Otis wrote a play called Right On Brother, and I saw where they were auditioning people in the play. So I went and auditioned for it, and I got cast in the chorus. But I learned all the male parts in the whole play. So when the guys got let go, they had open auditions, and I came to the production office and said, I want the part. You don't need to see anybody else. What do you mean? I said, I want to audition. So I auditioned, I got the role. I co-starred in that play at the old Oxford Playhouse. A guy named Tyler Carr came to see a girl named Marie Chiefin, who was doing commercials for Herb Tan and Associates, a commercial agency. And he came backstage afterwards. One night he came to see the play, and he said, you ever done commercials? I said, nope, never done a commercial. I just got out there, I'm doing this play. So he said, come to see me in my office tomorrow. So I came the next day. My car broke down, so I had this friend of mine that I was doing another play with drive me over to Herb Tanner's office. Went in there. Herb Tanner took a look at me and said, no, we got a guy like him, but send him out. As we were walking out, my friend was sitting there, natural hairdo was just coming out. She was sitting there with a real close natural. And he said, who is that? I said, that's a friend of mine. We're doing a play on the weekends together. They signed her on the spot. They sent me out the next day on 3 nationals, and I got all 3 of them.
Oh, wow.
American Airlines, Hunt Snack Pack, and Lincoln Mercury. I shot her popping up out of a manhole in the middle of Sunset Boulevard. I remember all of that stuff now, but that's a long time ago. And that's how I got started, got into commercials. And that led into some Dan August, a guest star on the old Burt Reynolds show, Dan August, and then Sanford and Son, then the Waltons. And I gave myself 3 years. And at the end of the 3 years, I had the Waltons, Sanford, and Harry O. I said, I guess I'm not going back home.
Wow.
So here I am, 55 years later.
Wow. That's amazing. That's great. One of the films that's always been a standout for me is Private Benjamin.
Yeah, that's the great. That character was fashioned from a live person I witnessed during World War II. I lived in Columbus, Ohio, right across from the United States Army base, Fort Hays. And as a kid, I used to have a bowling alley in there. I used to go in there and set pins on Wednesdays. But every day at 5 a.m., they shot off a cannon. My house was right across the street. And every day at 5 a.m., they blew the reveille, they blew the bugle, or electronically. Then at 5 p.m., they shot the cannon. I watched the drill sergeant drill the recruits in Fort Hays through the bars of the fence every day. And I never forgot that. And when we had an Air Force base close by called Lockbourne Air Force Base, they used to come on and put an air show every Veterans Day, as we call it now. And also the 82nd Airborne used to come out and have a parade and then jump from planes at Lockbourne Air Force Base. So I fell in love with the Army and all of that, even though I never was able to join the Army. And that character, when I got the thing for Private Benjamin, a friend of mine who worked at Warner Brothers, so they wanted Lou Gossett, who ended up getting an officer and gentleman playing DI. But they were looking for different persons, and they were looking for him. He wasn't available, so my friend said, "Why don't you get the guy that's on Sanford and Son?" And Marion Doherty, who was the casting person, didn't know me, didn't want to know me, didn't want to bring me in, but they brought me in. Luckily, the day I came in for my audition, Goldie Hawn was there.
Ah.
They had hired a director, and he wanted to see me audition for that role. And Goldie read with me. Goldie had on some slacks and a blouse and a big gold belt. And we did the scene where I threw her off the bus.
Ah.
So we did the scene. I'm supposedly threw her on the floor. And when I got to the thing, drop and give me 60 or whatever I said. And she starts grunting and stuff like this. And then my character's supposed to say, I reached down and grabbed that big gold belt. And I grabbed Goldie and I said, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And she said, what is this? Something. And I said, no, Benjamin, this is the Army. And that got me the part. And we've spent 8 wonderful, wonderful weeks in Fort MacArthur in San Pedro, California, in the actual fort down there, 8 weeks. I didn't even drive back and forth to LA every day. I rented a room in a local motor inn and stayed down there the whole 8 weeks. Just had a great time with Eileen and Goldie and everybody. It was really the best fun I've had ever doing this show. Just had a good time. It was not like work, and I stayed in character the whole time. They had guys come up from the Marines come up from Camp Pendleton to play the recruits. I never sat with them. I never ate with them. I never did nothing. I stayed away from them. Till the day they had the rap party. And I came into the rap party and they said, hey, Sergeant, I said, I'm not a sergeant, man. What do you mean? What base are you at? I said, I'm an actor. I just They said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I did. I stayed away from you guys on purpose. I stayed in character the whole 8 weeks. So that was a joy. That was a joy.
Smart. And then, so how was then the transition to the series?
Don Rio and his wife produced the series. Warner Brothers wanted to keep tabs on us, and they fell out with Don Rio because he wanted to have we got an order for 7 after they did the pilot. And Don Rio wanted to throw a big party. And Warner Brothers didn't want to let him use the commissary or something. Anyway, Don fell in disfavor because he threw a big party anyway. That's the kind of guy he was. And they fired him. So from that point on, we had different producers come in. And then, unfortunately, the first season, Eileen and Goldie went to dinner in Venice. And when they were saying goodbye, Eileen turned around and said goodbye and stepped off the curb, and a drunk ran over her. That's when she got hurt and damn near died. The series didn't stop, but they brought in the lady from Kiss My Grits from the
right. Linda Lavin and
yeah, what's the guy's name? Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she finished off the show, and after that, we did half a season, and it got canceled. So we never did. It wasn't the fun that it had been on the movie. I'll tell you that. A lot of little things. You know what happens on the show sometimes. I was glad for the opportunity, and I made the best of it. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't nearly as great as the movie. So. Yeah.
Well, and you didn't have 8 weeks to create something really fun and special. Even though we know the TV schedule.
And they came in, they tried to change my character. They tried to diminish my character. They didn't want me to be tight with Eileen, who was the captain, and defending Benjamin all the time. They wrote an episode that I almost got fired over because they wanted me to do and say some things to Benjamin I had never done before. I said, the thing about this was kind of like where he knew she was always messing up, but that she was really a good soldier and all that. And even though he was always gruff with her and everything, he would never let anybody touch her if she got in trouble, And that was something that, and the guy, one of the executives, Warner Brothers, how are you going to say that last? I'm not going to say that line to her. Why would I? I've never talked to her that way. I have never. They called my agent. They threatened me with all kinds of stuff. They modified it somewhat, but they were ready to fire me over that because they didn't want to listen to what the show had been up to that point. These new producers wanted to change it. So that's one of the.
Well, that's a long time battle that we fight as actors over our idea of our character and the integrity of our character versus
the
hierarchy and opinions that sometimes are valid and sometimes aren't.
I mean, I'll acquiesce. I'm not locked in, but when it's something I created over time, you're asking me to go completely reverse. It won't be the character.
Yeah,
it's out of character for no reason.
Yeah,
I mean, she didn't throw a brick through my window, or hit me upside the head with a bat or anything. She didn't attack me. Why am I being this aggressive to her?
Yeah. I always loved in talking with Cammie Kotler one time. She talked about from playing Elizabeth from the time she was 6 years old, and talking about different directors and different things that happened. She said her opinion was that she was an expert on being a little girl because she was a little girl. So she felt that aspect of her character, she knew better than anybody else.
Exactly.
And it's true, so, I mean, she was never difficult about it, but she just knew what she knew. And sometimes that's the case. And it is a collaborative process.
It just, sometimes it becomes a power thing. And that with me, they wanted to see if they could really force me. And I told David, I forget his name, I said, fire me. I said, you're going to pay me to be at my house in Baldwin Hills while you're down here trying to use somebody else in this role? You're going to have to fire me. And you're still going to have to pay me. So that helped a little bit.
Yeah. Now, you also were part of Ralph Waite's film On the Nickel. Yeah. Now, did you know Ralph before the Waltons, or you built that friendship during the course of the Waltons, or how did that come about?
I met Ralph on the Waltons, but also his partner, Bill Bushnell, turned the old theater into L.A. Actors Theater. The Oxford Playhouse. He changed the Oxford Playhouse into L.A. Actors Free Theater. And they had 3 theaters in there, and there's free money in a can when you come out. Nobody had ever done that before. And Ralph, I understand, I don't know. Ralph got $1 million to produce a movie that he had written and directed called On the Nickel. Well, I have starred in 3 plays at his theater with Bill Bushnell, who was his unit production manager and everything on the film. And they cast me in the role of this homeless derelict named Paul, who was on a crutch. That's how I got the role. Because Ralph knew me from the Waltons, Bill knew me from the theater, and just put the 2 together. And I'm very proud of it. The only thing that hurts me, I let the lady that was the head of the fan club have the original copy I had of it. And she died, and they took all her belongings and donated them to the museum. And I've been trying to get hold of the director at the museum to see if my tape is in there. Wow. Because Ralph kept editing it, because all the studios he took it to wanted to steal it. It was a wonderful movie, but it was 3 hours long. I said, Ralph, so what's the deer hunter? So what? It's 3 hours long. It's so timely now, Judy. It's about homeless people down the Nickel was 5th Street. We spent 6 weeks in downtown LA in Skid Row. Wow. I was on a crutch. I almost got a divorce because I didn't bathe for 6 weeks. I kept my costume on for 6 weeks and slept in the garage. Didn't sleep with my wife and was all funky and stinky for real. And I used to sit every day I wasn't working in Pershing Square in downtown LA, where all derelicts hang out during the day. Stay in character and learn more and more about how to play the character. I'm as proud of that piece of work as anything I've ever done, and nobody's hardly ever seen it. I tried to talk to, they asked me to speak at Ralph's, because Ralph lived not too far from me down here. And I tried to get Liam and Linda to see if they can use Ralph's agent to sell to Netflix or something like that. They're showing all this. That movie would fit just perfect now. That was a wonderful, wonderful movie. And Ralph reached back and got all the guys that he had known in AA and all this other stuff, Dan Elcar, all these people, and put them in that movie. And it was wonderful. I'm probably maybe one of two people that's still alive. Did that movie.
Wow.
And
yeah, I remember him having a screening of it that we all went to, and yeah.
Donald Moffat, that was his wife was director on the
When? Yeah.
And, yeah. I co-starred with him in that. Wonderful, wow. Wonderful movie.
Yeah. No, that's you're right. I mean, it should be out. It should be available for people to see.
Find out where you can find it. They show it at art festivals and stuff. It's never been on regular nationwide TV. If you get a chance to see it, please see it. It needs to be seen. Right today, it needs to be seen.
Yeah.
And he cut the hell out. He cut it down to like an hour and 50 minutes or something.
And the one that you said you had, that original, was that the 3-hour one?
I had the original 3-hour one, but it was on 3/4 inch.
I got you.
And the one that I had made after that was of what he had edited. He sent me a copy, and I made copies off of it. What he had edited down to like an hour and 50 minutes from the 3-hour version. But I did the 3/4 version. I still have. I got to get somebody to put it back on disc so I can show it and see it now.
I want to thank Hal for joining me for this segment. It has been such a pleasure to reconnect with him, and he always makes me smile, and I'm sure you feel the same way. So thanks for joining us. I will be back with more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more of your questions on Ask Judy, and more special guests. Thanks for watching.